had just finished folding the last load of laundry when my husband, Eric, walked through the front door, tossed an envelope onto the coffee table, and said without flinching, "You're a useless wife, and I'm leaving you for someone who actually takes care of herself." Then, just like that, he told me he was moving in with his new girlfriend. I didn't even get a warning, just 15 years of marriage crumpled up and thrown in my face with a smirk. Looking back, maybe I should have seen it coming. The signs had been piling up like unopened mail. About 8 months ago, Eric suddenly got obsessed with his fitness, started waking up at 5 a.m. for some trendy workout class, bragging about how many steps he hit on his Apple Watch, and buying overpriced gym clothes from Lululemon like we were made of money. I was happy he wanted to get healthy. It's not like we're in our 20s anymore. But then the comments started. At first, it was stuff like, maybe you'd like working out more if you tried one of those viral Peloton classes. Or, you'd look great if you changed up your hair, something more modern. I brushed it off. I mean, who hasn't suggested a new hairstyle after years together? But then it became constant. Little digs about my appearance, my clothes, how I didn't care enough about staying attractive. One day he bought me a fancy face cream and said, "This could help with those lines around your eyes." I stared at him like he'd lost his mind. The late nights at work started shortly after. So did the cologne I didn't recognize, and the random restaurant charges popping up on our joint bank account from places we never went together. Then, yesterday, I found a Tiffany & Co. receipt tucked into his coat pocket while doing laundry. I don't know why that was the moment I knew, but it was. My stomach dropped. I checked our savings, and just like that, half of it was gone. Withdrawn slowly, bit by bit, like he was hoping I wouldn't notice. The account he transferred it to? One I didn't even know existed. When he got home, I was waiting, with the receipt in my hand. I didn't even have to ask. He looked right at me, laughed, and said, "I was going to wait until the weekend, but since you're being nosy, here you go." Then he handed me divorce papers. Said his lawyer told him it was a fair deal, considering I contributed basically nothing to our marriage. And then, just like that, he started packing. Said his new girlfriend Jenna actually had goals, actually worked out, actually made him feel alive. He called me dead weight, a burden. And the worst part? He truly believed I wouldn't survive without him. He took everything expensive, his iPad, the gaming console, the good coffee maker. He left behind what he didn't want, me and 15 years of memories. But I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I didn't even raise my voice. I just watched him go, like I was finally waking up from a dream that had stopped being good a long time ago. After he left, I sat in that quiet house, my hands shaking, and did the one thing I hadn't done in years. I asked for help. I called my sister Laura. She was there within the hour, and together we made a plan. Divorce attorney, credit card freezes, bank account security. It wasn't glamorous, and I was scared out of my mind. But something in me had changed. He thought I'd fall apart. But I was just getting started. The first real punch came 3 days after Eric walked out. I was at the grocery store trying to buy some basic things, milk, bread, toilet paper, when my debit card got declined. At first, I thought it was some kind of error, but when I checked my bank app in the parking lot, my stomach dropped. The joint savings account, the one where my paycheck had been going for the last 15 years, was empty. Turns out Eric had been slowly siphoning money out for months. Not in huge, obvious chunks that would raise alarms. No, it was $250. 0 cents here labeled car maintenance. $300. 0 cents there for business travel. All very routine sounding. I trusted him. After all, wasn't that the whole point of marriage? You divide responsibilities? He handled the finances, I handled the house, the kids, the chaos. Now I felt like the rug had been pulled from under me, and I was crashing through every floor of the house I thought we'd built together. Back at home, I started digging. I pulled out every folder, every file, every receipt I could find. I opened the junk drawer, the one he always told me to stay out of because it was his system, and it was like finding a diary of betrayal. There were receipts from restaurants I'd never heard of, movie ticket stubs from theaters on the other side of town, and hotel bookings dated on weekends he claimed to be at conferences. I sat at the dining room table, surrounded by paperwork, hands shaking, heart pounding, wondering how much of my life had been a lie. My sister Laura came over again, and this time she brought her laptop. She used to work in finance and knew exactly where to look. Within an hour, she had a spreadsheet started and a folder named Eric's Dirty Secrets. We even found an email confirmation for a Capital One credit card I didn't know existed. It was under his name, but the billing address was ours. He'd been using it for dinners, gas stations, and, get this, Planet Fitness, which was hilarious, considering he told me he went to a fancy gym because it was better for his back. Spoiler alert, Jenna, the mistress, also had a Planet Fitness membership. Real power couple, huh? But what really broke me wasn't the money. It was a single message I found while logging into our old shared email. It was from Jenna, sent weeks ago. Can't wait to finally live in our own place. I'm so glad you're leaving her. She doesn't appreciate you. There it was, in black and white. They'd been planning this behind my back while I was folding laundry, cooking dinner, buying groceries, and keeping the house running on autopilot. I was just background noise to them, a stepping stone. I didn't cry. Not then. Instead, I did what I should have done years ago. I started putting myself first. I opened my own checking account, called the credit card companies and froze everything tied to our names. My lawyer told me to document everything, so I did. Every receipt, every email, every bank transfer. I even took photos of the house, how it looked before he left, because I had a feeling this was going to get uglier before it got better. The next morning, Eric called. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail saying I needed to be reasonable and that we could talk like adults. Funny, he didn't seem interested in being reasonable when he was packing his bags and calling me useless. I just saved the voicemail and added it to the folder. Let him think I'm weak. Let him think I'll break without him. He has no idea who he just walked away from. A week later, I was sitting at Laura's kitchen table, still sorting through financial records, when she looked up and said, "You're not going to believe this." She had just pulled up Eric's Instagram account, which I'd unfollowed months ago, and showed me his latest post. It was a selfie, him and Jenna standing in front of a luxury apartment building downtown, all smiles and new beginnings in the caption. I stared at it for a second, stunned, not by the photo, but by the arrogance. That building? Rent starts at $3,200, 0 cents a month. And I knew for a fact Eric didn't have that kind of money, because I'd been paying all the real bills for years. Laura and I had a good laugh about it before she started digging into his credit report. Turns out, Mr. Confident had applied for multiple lines of credit in the past 6 months and maxed most of them out. The kicker? One of them was used to lease a Tesla, yes, a Tesla, for Jenna. The same man who once said I was irresponsible for wanting a new washing machine was now playing sugar daddy with borrowed money. Then came the emails. My lawyer, Susan, forwarded me some documents Eric had submitted to the court. In them, he claimed I had no role in managing our household finances and that I preferred to let him handle the serious matters. He also listed our washer and dryer as personal items of emotional value that he wanted in the settlement. I laughed so hard I almost choked on my coffee. Emotional value? He hadn't touched a laundry basket in 10 years. But here's where things got spicy. Laura, being the genius she is, noticed that Eric had made a massive error in one of his financial disclosures. He'd claimed a $10,000 0 cents withdrawal was used to pay off home renovations, but we had no such renovations, no permits, no receipts, no work done. So what did we do? We traced that $10,000 0 cents to a cashier's check used to pay the deposit for that luxury apartment Jenna posted about. I let my lawyer know. Her response? This is going to be fun. At our first mediation meeting, Eric strolled in like he was walking onto a yacht, wearing that overpriced Nordstrom blazer he'd always bragged about. He looked relaxed, even smug. But his face changed fast when Susan pulled out a color-coded binder and handed a copy to the mediator. Every shady financial move, every hidden withdrawal, Every lie, all neatly laid out and time-stamped. Eric tried to keep his cool. "I think there's been a misunderstanding," he said, already sweating. But the mediator wasn't buying it. "You signed these documents under penalty of perjury, Mr. Langston," she said. "We're going to need clarification on several of these discrepancies." I didn't say a word, just sat there and watched the mask slip. For the first time, he looked unsure. Not angry, not smug, just a man who realized he was way out of his depth. Afterward, Laura and I went out for tacos to celebrate. I should have felt bitter, but instead I felt lighter than I had in years. For the first time, I wasn't just surviving, I was fighting back. And I was doing it on my own terms. Let Eric keep pretending he's got it all figured out. Let him keep performing for Jenna and whoever else he's trying to impress. I've got something he'll never understand. Peace, clarity, and the truth on my side. About 2 weeks after that meeting with my lawyer, I officially filed the paperwork. It felt surreal walking into that courthouse alone. No husband by my side, no family cheering me on, just me. A folder full of documents, and a determination I hadn't felt in years. As I handed the papers over, the clerk gave me a soft smile and said, "You're doing the right thing." I nodded, though my hands were shaking. That night, while eating microwave mac and cheese on my sister's couch, I realized something. This wasn't just the end of a marriage, it was the beginning of me reclaiming my life. James, meanwhile, was unraveling. Word must have spread that I'd lawyered up because suddenly the tone of his messages shifted again. He went from, "You'll regret this," to, "Let's talk like adults." Then came the late-night voicemails, the ones that always started confident and ended with a desperate edge in his voice. "You don't understand how much I did for us," he'd say, or, my personal favorite, "Aurora's not who I thought she was." Didn't reply. Instead, I spent my time cleaning out the house we once shared. Each drawer I emptied, each closet I cleared, felt like peeling away layers of a life I no longer recognized. I found receipts from hotels he'd claimed were work trips, a necklace tucked in his gym bag I never saw him give me, even a note from Aurora, written on a sticky pad. "You make me feel alive. I hate sneaking around. I want a real life with you." It was dated 2 months before he served me the papers. I boxed it all up, not out of sadness, but as evidence. My lawyer would need everything. Meanwhile, my sister Vivian kept me sane. She took me to the farmer's market every Sunday, made sure I was eating, and helped me print out forms and emails. We'd sit at her kitchen table, side by side, her kid running around while we created color-coded binders of every shady transaction, fake promise, and financial manipulation James had ever pulled. Vivian said, "This isn't just about the divorce, it's about holding him accountable." And then came the moment that changed everything. A letter from the bank. Turns out James had opened a personal line of credit using my name, without my knowledge. It wasn't a massive amount, but it was enough to hurt. My lawyer said this opened up the case significantly. Fraud, identity misuse, and potentially more. She looked at me and said, "You've been underestimated for far too long. Not anymore." That night, I sat in Vivian's living room with a cup of tea, listening to the rain. I looked around at the toys, the mess, the life that felt chaotic but full. For the first time in years, I felt safe. Not because someone was protecting me, but because I was finally protecting myself. James kept calling. One message stood out. "I don't know who you think you are now, but the woman I married would have fallen apart by now." He was right. The woman he married would have, but the woman I was becoming, she was just getting started. 6 months after James walked out of our marriage, calling me useless and certain I'd crumble, I stood in line at the bank, paycheck in hand. Not a dramatic ending, no courtroom fireworks, just the quiet kind of closure that feels like a deep breath after holding it in for far too long. The teller, the same young woman who'd helped me open my first solo account months earlier, smiled when she saw me. "You look different," she said, "happier." And she was right, I was. The divorce was finalized with minimal drama. James didn't have the money to fight once we presented everything. My lawyer made sure I got my share. More than fair, considering what I'd discovered about the accounts he'd hidden and the credit cards he'd maxed out behind my back. His bluff crumbled when the documentation hit the table. Every shady withdrawal, every fake charge labeled business expense, every receipt from weekends with Aurora was laid bare. He tried to act like it didn't matter, but by then, even Aurora had walked out. She left without fanfare, just disappeared back to her parents' place in the suburbs. I didn't need the details. All I knew was that she messaged me one final time. "You were right. I'm sorry." I left it unread. James didn't take it well. After losing his job, his apartment, and Aurora, he moved into a shared house across town. The Tesla he leased to look impressive got repossessed, and now he's driving an old, beat-up Honda. The same kind of car he used to mock me for wanting, calling it too basic. I heard from Katie, his sister, that he even tried borrowing money from their parents again. They said no. He's reached out a few times, each message more pathetic than the last. "You made your point," one said. "Can we talk?" Another. But I didn't respond. There's no point in reopening a door that led me nowhere. Meanwhile, my world, small, quiet, and entirely mine, keeps growing. I'm still at the customer service job, but they bumped my pay by $5 an hour last month. I've learned how to do my own taxes through TurboTax. I cook now. Nothing fancy, but enough to keep me fed and proud. I even go to Planet Fitness on weekends. Nothing extreme, just a bit of movement, a bit of sweat, a reminder that I'm taking care of myself. The studio apartment feels more like home each day. I bought throw pillows from a clearance bin and a lamp shaped like a lighthouse because it made me smile. 2 out of the 3 plants I got from Home Depot are still alive. Better odds than I expected. Last week, I ran into James at the grocery store. He looked worn down. Same Nordstrom shirt he used to boast about, but it was wrinkled and didn't quite fit anymore. He didn't say anything, just nodded and kept walking. And I smiled, nodded back, and went back to comparing brands of almond milk. That was the moment I knew. I'd won. Not out of revenge, not because I ruined him, but because I rebuilt myself. I no longer measure my worth by someone else's opinion. I no longer apologize for not being shiny enough, or small enough, or quiet enough. I am who I am, stronger, smarter, more capable than he ever let me believe. And the best part? I'm just getting started.